Welcome to the show, folks. We appreciate you joining us here today. This is Dime to Diamonds. My name is Jessica, joined here with Suzanne Porsky of Phoenix Financial Group and Rochelle Harp of Harp CPA. And lots to talk about on today's show, of course, why you should check for fees when something sounds too good to be true, and what does history say about the worst economic time for American presidents? Before we get to that, the phone number 918-890-8311, 918-890-8311, that website, dimetodiamondsradio.com. Suzanne, Rochelle, welcome, ladies. How you doing?
I'm doing amazing, mostly because, just now more than ever, I feel like women are really stepping into their financial power, and I get to be a part of that every single day. And that makes my heart happy. How about you, Rochelle?
Yeah, I'm doing absolutely fantastic. As I said earlier, I'm here living the dream. And if you're here listening, you've already made a step ahead of everybody else because you actually care about getting your financial life in order.
Absolutely. And that really is the hardest and the first step is, okay, you're listening to the show, which is great, but let's take that second step and say, okay, let me call Suzanne. Let me sit down. Let's talk about my retirement, my income, my financial plans, get all my ducks in a row. And that really is the crucial part here. One more time, that phone number, 918-890-8311. All right, Suzanne and Rochelle, let's pop open our history books. If a U.S. president serves a full 4-year term, that's 16 quarters, by the way, and if you look at the last 75 years, the worst economic quarter for every president tends to be the second quarter of their second year. That's exactly where we are right now with President Trump. So, do you build short-term and long-term protections into your retirement plan? And, of course, how do retirees avoid being forced into selling investments at the worst possible time?
That's such a great question. I'm going to break it down, though. Okay, you are totally correct. History is very telling. And the reason we have seen this trend is, well, it's really simple because that first year, you've got all the optimism, stimulus, new policy expectations.
Yeah, and that's with everything. That first year, when you first start out something,
honeymoon.
Some new program. Yeah, it's the honeymoon. It's exciting. It's fun. It's what you are looking forward to. Then we get into year 2, which is policy, friction, hits, and then the reality checks, right? So we have tax changes, interest rate pressure, and global reactions. So markets reprice risk when volatility spikes.
Right. And so it isn't just political, it's structural. Yeah, like you said, the markets don't move on headlines. They move when expectations collide with reality. And I feel, honestly, that's the real risk for retirees.
Yeah, and this is where you talk a lot about the sequence of returns and taking withdrawals during downturns that locks in the losses. And you're not just losing money, you're shrinking that future income base and your purchasing power. And we talk a lot about how to avoid that and how we can set up proactive plans to mitigate those options.
Right. Because it's not the decline that does the damage, it's being forced to participate in it. And you and I were talking about that before we went on the air, is that, yeah, when somebody's taking $2,600 systematically a month out, and then they have a downturn in the market, so they've lost the purchasing power from the downturn, then they're taking the $2,600, it's that much less to bounce back. So the real question isn't will the market recover, because historically we can see it always has. But the real question is, can their plan survive the timing of when it doesn't?
Yeah, and so I think that goes back to that first question that Jessica brought up, which is, do you build short-term and long-term protection into your retirement plans?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've talked about that. I mean, being proactive and not reactive. And I think you and I work real well with our bucket strategy. Like, we try to look at everybody's portfolio in 3 separate buckets. That first one being the sleep at night money, the emergency funds, the cash reserves, money markets, those that are buffered and have protected strategies, the income sources that are not tied to market performance.
Yeah, so when we're talking about that, we're thinking people with savings accounts or maybe CDs, stuff like that. That's what we consider safe, right? And I think that fluctuates different for all different types of clients, right? Not everyone is the same. Some people having $20,000 is a lot, and some people it might be, more about $100K.
Right. And I was telling you that with that client we have in another state, he doesn't want to get below $96,000. That's his threshold. He goes, I can't sleep at night. And then I think of some of our ladies here. They said, you know what? I really want $50,000 in that savings account that I know is always there. That's their threshold. So everybody's number is different when you're talking about that bucket one, the short-term protection.
Well, and when we're thinking about what we might use bucket one for, this would be emergency things. These aren't, we're going to go buy a car. These aren't, we're going to go put a down payment on a house. These aren't things like that. These are more the small things like, my refrigerator went out. I need to go and replace that or something like that. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a large threshold, but finding that comfort level for what an individual likes.
Right. So ladies, we're talking to you. If this is hitting home and you want somebody to talk to, you need to give us a call today and let's set up that time to talk. We are here for you, and there's never a dumb question. We're you. We know. We're looking at you and we're going, you know what? You're seen, you're heard.
When you start talking through the different situations and scenarios, you get different insights, and we're able to identify what it is that you want and what it is that your goals are, and we tailor our plans around that.
So that first bucket, I feel like if we had to sum it up, Rochelle, is like if you don't need to touch or participate in the market when it's down, they've already won.
Correct.
They're already there. Let's just have that for an emergency, like you said, for a buffer. That second bucket is the income layering money bucket. And this is where most plans I see fall apart because they rely too heavily on just one source. That second bucket is that Social Security, and we make sure that the timing is right to maximize their benefits, because once you make that decision,
it's locked in forever and you can never change it.
And same with pensions, the same thing. Once you check that box or your spouse does, that's it forever. There's no going back. So, and then I like to work with them on bridging strategies, like not just one, not just two, but let's look at those different sources. Because we have realized that, they want that solid income foundation that's completely reliable.
Yeah, so that gives the solid income foundation that's completely reliable, because retirement isn't about just having money. It's about having predictable income, which I kind of like to talk a little bit about dividends on this, because this is one of the areas you and I focus a lot. And it's one of those areas that I recently had a few conversations about people who were getting very large dividends. And the lady sitting across said, well, it makes my account grow. It makes it bigger. And I said, I understand that, but there are other ways to make your account bigger without just getting dividends that are unpredictable.
Totally unpredictable. You know what? They're going to be calling me here in a little bit, Rochelle, because they're going to say, why'd my Medicare premiums go up? I'm like, Sister Irma. Mm-hmm. Sister Irma, because your Medicare payments, how much you have to pay for Medicare is totally based on your income. And you've got some unreliable source there, dividends that make you feel good, but no, that's where you got to.
But not when we were teetering right on that line, right on that bracket where we were trying to keep you under those thresholds so that we don't have a ripple effect of a tax impact. And that's where you and I strive and work really well together, is finding that line, keeping people below that. Dividends don't always help with that.
No. And then, 24 months. That's a 24-month penalty, because it's going to go up. And you and I have seen that. We've sat across the table where somebody goes, hey, remember the guy slid the letter. What does this mean? $400 more. I'm like, well, 400 plus 200, 600. So $600 a month for 24 months, because they took your last 2 years, mm-hmm. and you had a large gain there.
Yep. And you get to keep doing that for 2 full years, which doesn't sound like a long time, but 24 months is a very, very significant amount of time when you're talking that kind of dollar amounts.
And it could have been mitigated.
Correct. It could have been completely avoided.
Right. And that's where we like to not, we like to plan and have a proactive plan in place. So the third bucket we talk about is that long-term growth bucket. That's that 5 to 15 year period. So it's the equities for inflation protection. There's strategic allocations, so there's not emotional reactions going on, and then that rebalancing discipline we have in place. So just every president has had a worse quarter, so that's not the risk. We find that the risk is going into retirement without a plan for when it actually happens. So, here at Phoenix Financial Group, we don't build plans based on what we hope the market's going to do. We build plans based on what we know it will eventually do, and that includes some downturns.
Because strong markets don't last forever, even powerful bull markets tend to run into trouble when historical patterns and sketched violations collide. Today's evaluated stock valuations often precede long stretches of lower returns in the past. So for retirees, this raises the risk that future gains may not be strong enough to quickly recover from those losses. And as we have said, history shows volatility tends to rise during political turning points. Mid-year elections have historically brought uncertainty and weaker performances from stock. And that kind of volatility is less about panic and more about timing, especially for those needing an income strategy.
You know, Suzanne and Rochelle, you guys have covered a lot of different aspects here. I want to go back and review the three buckets that you kind of separated us into here. Number one being that short-term protection, right? And then going into income layering. And then, of course, this long-term growth bucket. Rochelle, you were just talking about the election. And, of course, midterm election years, they've historically brought more uncertainty to the market and to our economy. And here's the deal. If you want to put certainty back into an uncertain future, this is where Suzanne comes in, guys. This is where you're able to look at that comfort level and realize, again, like Rochelle said, it's not about having money. It's about having predictable income in retirement. If this is something that's speaking to you right now, if you are thinking about retirement, if you are already retired, looking for another set of eyes to look at your current plan to make sure that, number one, you're on track, but number two, that you have that predictable income in retirement, call us right now for that complimentary income analysis. That phone number is 918-890-8311. That's 918-890-8311. And that website, of course, dimetodiamondsradio.com. Coming up in a moment, why you may have seen a bump in your tax refund this year. We'll talk about it in just a moment.
Suzanne and her team at Phoenix Financial Group have a special invitation for you today. For the next 5 radio callers, they'll sit down with you personally and help create a custom retirement plan for you. It's complimentary and there's no obligation. Just call 918-890-8311. That's 918-890-8311. Together with you, Suzanne and her team will look at your investments, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, show you how your life's savings can create a dependable and sustainable income in retirement. Call today for your custom retirement plan, 918-890-8311, and online at dimetodiamondsradio.com.
When you retire, the paycheck from your job will likely stop. But here's what won't stop: bills, taxes, and medical issues. Sure, there's Social Security, but that may not be enough. Suzanne Porsky and the team at Phoenix Financial can show you how to develop a new stream of income that can last as long as you live. Kind of like having your own personal pension. You won't have to worry about whether the market is up or down, or about who's sitting in the White House. You can spend your time instead on the things that matter, like family, friends, and doing the things you never had time to do before. Call Suzanne today at 918-890-8311. That's 918-890-8311, and schedule your custom income review at no charge to find out where you stand now and how Suzanne can help you build income in retirement. 918-890-8311 or online at dimetodiamondsradio.com.
In retirement, you'll be writing 2 kinds of checks. The fun ones to pay for things like nice vacations, and the not so fun ones to pay for things like your tax bill. Fortunately, a good strategy can help minimize your tax obligations, leaving more money for your vacation budget. Sound good? Call Suzanne Porsky at Phoenix Financial Group to talk about a tax strategy that might work for you. 918-890-8311. That's 918-890-8311 or visit dimetodiamondsradio.com.
And we appreciate you listening today. Get this, Suzanne and her team at Phoenix Financial Group have a special invitation for you today. For the next 5 callers, they'll sit down with you personally and help create a custom retirement plan just for you. It's complimentary and there's no obligation. Just call 918-890-8311. That's 918-890-8311. And together with you, Suzanne and her team will look at your investments, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, show you how your life savings can create a dependable and sustainable income in retirement. Call today for your custom retirement plan, 918-890-8311. That's 918-890-8311. And visit us online at dimetodiamondsradio.com.
Welcome back. This is Dime to Diamonds, and we appreciate you joining us here today. First and foremost, if retirement's been on the brain, keeping you up late at night, maybe even just stressing you out a little bit, you're in the right spot. These are the topics that Suzanne and Rochelle, they discuss each and every single week. The latest and greatest in those financial headlines, what's going on overseas in our economy and our markets. Most importantly, how will it impact you and your financial future? Anything we talk about on today's show that kind of raises that red flag for you, maybe you have some questions. That phone number, 918-890-8311, 918-890-8311. Of course, more details at dimetodiamondsradio.com. Did you get a tax refund from 2025? Well, the average check from the IRS this filing season was about 11% higher than the previous year. Here's CNBC's Sharon Epperson to explain.
You typically get a refund when you overpay taxes throughout the year. And if you're a W-2 employee, that largely depends on how much tax your employer withholds from your paycheck throughout the year. Now, several major changes to tax credits and deductions went into effect retroactively for 2025 after President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act into law in July. However, the IRS did not update tax withholding tables. Experts say that means many employees overpaid taxes in 2025, which may have resulted in a higher refund.
All right, so let's break this down, Rochelle. I mean, for those who have recently retired and maybe they ended up owing, the big question that they have is, okay, help me get ahead here so I'm not just writing checks left and right to the IRS. How can you help?
Yeah, we definitely take a look as to what are the factors that went into why they owed. And one of those big ones is a lot of people don't know that when you get your Social Security, you have to voluntarily elect to have federal taxes withheld from your Social Security check. And so a lot of times individuals start drawing their Social Security not realizing that they're getting additional income, but they're not having any extra withholdings held. And so that causes a lot of individuals that first year to have a huge bill and a little bit of stress when they come and visit.
Yes, they're just shocked. We've yet to have a workshop and we bring that up and they don't say, we had no idea. Nobody told us that they're not automatically. Because when we go to take withdrawals out of the 401ks and IRAs, you have to check a box. Correct. You have to acknowledge that yes, how much you want taken out, or no, you don't, and you realize, that you're going to be getting hit. They don't do that with Social Security.
Yeah, well, it used to be even more difficult, but now they've made it a lot more simple to be able to make that election, whether that's filing the form and taking it to your local Social Security office, or there's even options online for people to do it. It's definitely one of the big pieces that we factor in and we take a look at. When we were talking from Sharon, right, she was talking about the fact that a lot of retirees and other individuals got bigger refunds this year or overpaid, as some of my clients like to tell me, which is more accurate, was because of the One Big Beautiful Bill that went into effect and some of the different pieces, which is a great thing. But then that also means it's time to go back and reevaluate maybe your W-2 withholdings or even that box that you're checking on your withdrawals. Maybe it's too high of a percentage and we need to take a look at that. And we're trying to shift the conversation from just tax filing to tax planning. The goal isn't to react to taxes, it's really to try to control them. We can make choices and we can do different things that, the IRS code is written and it incentivizes certain behaviors, and we can use that to plan and be strategic to mitigate overall taxes over 10 years.
So if this is speaking to you, you're listening to this right now, I'm going to encourage you, if you don't have a holistic financial advisory firm that you can go and talk to about this, maybe you have a financial advisor and they've helped you with accumulation, that is awesome. We would like to talk to you about the next phase of your retirement, which is now the making it work for you and mitigating the taxes and talking to you about Medicare supplement, IRMA, Sister IRMA. That's an excise tax that our government came up with. RMDs, if your financial advisory firm is telling you have RMDs, but they're not looking at your tax situation and those RMDs, because if we work with our clients, we're able to say, hey, we're noticing on your tax returns that you're giving this to the church or you're donating this. Let's take that straight from that IRA, 401k, and let's take that straight over to the carrier straight over to that 501c3, that church. So it's not creating a tax event, and you're not worried about having enough tax deductions if you qualify to be able to write it off, correct?
Yeah, so that's a qualified charitable distribution, a QCD, and I just had a conversation with an individual, and she was livid sitting across from me, that she has been asking her individual tax advisor for years about what she could do, and she's been taking RMDs for years, and she just sat there and said, I don't know why that person didn't say it. And I said, I don't know either, but this is the opportunity you have, and we can do this next year, because she was making it, she just wasn't doing it through the proper channels.
So I'm going to slow down, because this is what we do at our workshops when we talk to people, is we say, okay, are you understanding you have to take these RMDs, required minimum distributions? It used to be at 70.5, then they moved it to 73, now it's 75. You must take, there is a calculation our government has given us. 27.4 is that first year. You divide that by your balances that have never before been taxed. That's what they are telling you by law you have to take out of those never before taxed accounts.
Or you get a 50% penalty.
Right. So let's just say on $500,000, you are by law required to take $18,000 out and reduce your balances by that amount. What happens is you add that to your income, and then that triggers your IRMA, which is your excise tax on your Medicare premiums. So now instead of $222 a month, you might be spending $300, $400, $500 a month on that Medicare payment, Medicare Part B. What we do is say, hey, let's look at your tax returns and where your money is being spent and see if we can't take that RMD amount. Let's just use the $18,000 right now. That's the number I was sharing. If you're giving your church $3,000 a year, let's take the $3,000 out of that RMD amount straight from that investment over to your church. Now you have reduced your RMD. You haven't created a tax event. It's all happened. Mm-hmm. Perfect.
Correct.
And so that's what we do. And people go, oh, do I have to do the full $18,000? You just have to take that out. What you do with it, let us try to figure it out for you and give you some ideas of where you can do it. So we're reducing that right? Mitigating the taxes.
Yeah. We're still doing exactly what you're wanting to do, and you're still giving to the church or the nonprofit organization just as you would normally, but this way we can do it without creating taxable income for you. So it's a win-win for everybody except for the IRS. So.
Hey, we're pretty awesome. I'm going to tell you right now. I mean, we're.
I was going to say, you guys are doing great.
I love it. We're like, oh, let's get our hands and let's get them in there and start kneading the bread, kneading the dough, and like let's figure out the best way to make this. Women and men, we all work so hard for our money, so let's make it work just as hard for us. And then what gets somebody to retirement is not the same thing that gets them through retirement, because you can't have that same exposure to loss. You can't have that same exposure to dividends. You can't have all these variables anymore. It just doesn't work. The government hopes that you keep it the same because that's what they've set the system up for. They've set the system up for you to stay fully invested in the market like you were when you were in accumulation, and they start getting you from all different, and that's why I say these little tax bombs that go on. So if this is speaking to you and if you just want a second opinion, please give us a call, stop by. And we are in the beautiful downtown Broken Arrow Rose District, and it's a hopping these days. It's so nice. And
I think one of the best pieces about it is when people come to visit, they've literally said it's like a Hallmark show. And it's amazing that we have that here in Oklahoma. So if you haven't experienced it, you should come and just enjoy walking down the main street, stop into some of the little boutiques and some of the restaurants. It really is an amazing main street.
They can catch me popping popcorn in my popcorn maker on Fridays.
My husband will take you up on that every Friday.
I know. Especially when I tell him, hey, it's stale. He's like, I don't care. There's no stale popcorn. So.
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, taxes are a crucial part of the conversation of income planning and retirement planning. I think a lot of folks forget about that. They think, well, I did the April 15th deadline thing, put taxes on the shelf. I'll worry about it next year. When in reality, tax planning is essentially something that you should do each and every single, every few months, if you will. It should be a year-round situation. And being tax efficient is huge when it comes to planning for your retirement, right? Uncle Sam's got his little grubby hands out all the time. We want to make sure that you're not putting money in there unless you absolutely have to. That's where Suzanne and Rochelle, they can help you out. A tax analysis, folks, is a really great way to see exactly how much money is flying out of your pocket right now to pay Uncle Sam, and is there something better that you could be doing? This tax analysis is complimentary. That's 918-890-8311, 918-890-8311. That website, dimetodiamondsradio.com. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
The people at JP Morgan found that if you have a steady, reliable paycheck coming in every month in retirement, you'll worry less and spend more. And that's what Suzanne Porsky and the team at Phoenix Financial Group have been doing for years. Find out what they can do for you. Call today for a no-cost, no-obligation meeting. 918-890-8311. That's 918-890-8311, or visit dimetodiamondsradio.com and get it done with Phoenix Financial Group.
When you retire, the paycheck from your job will likely stop. But here's what won't stop: bills, taxes, and medical issues. Sure, there's Social Security, but that may not be enough. Suzanne Porsky and the team at Phoenix Financial can show you how to develop a new stream of income that can last as long as you live. Kind of like having your own personal pension. You won't have to worry about whether the market is up or down, or about who's sitting in the White House. You can spend your time instead on the things that matter, like family, friends, and doing the things you never had time to do before. Call Suzanne today at 918-890-8311. That's 918-890-8311, and schedule your custom income review at no charge to find out where you stand now and how Suzanne can help you build income in retirement. 918-890-8311 or online at dimetodiamondsradio.com.
And we appreciate you listening today. Get this, Suzanne and her team at Phoenix Financial Group have a special invitation for you today. For the next 5 callers, they'll sit down with you personally and help create a custom retirement plan just for you. It's complimentary and there's no obligation. Just call 918-890-8311. That's 918-890-8311. And together with you, Suzanne and her team will look at your investments, taxes, and perhaps most importantly, show you how your life savings can create a dependable and sustainable income in retirement. Call today for your custom retirement plan, 918-890-8311. That's 918-890-8311. And visit us online at dimetodiamondsradio.com.